Hello guys, I'm Tom, and today we'll explore what the zygote is. One of the most terrifying, complex, and monstrous creatures to ever come from the human mind is the zygote. Within the world of horror and science fiction, few creatures have conveyed the same sense of hopelessness, biological horror, and imminent doom as this monster, featured in the Oats Studios short film directed by Neill Blomkamp. Inspired by classics like The Thing and Aliens, Zygote blends body horror with a survival story in a claustrophobic and hostile environment. However, what truly makes Zygote an unforgettable enemy isn't just its terrifying appearance or the explicit violence it exhibits, but the deep critique underlying its story: labor exploitation, the commodification of the human being, and the thin line between humanity and artificial intelligence. That's why in this video, I will explain in detail the story and origins of the zygote. And to do so, I'll give you a summary of its history in the short film. Then, I'll talk about its physical appearance, its personality, and its incredible known abilities and weaknesses. The story of the zygote begins 2 decades before the events of the short film, when an asteroid impacted the Northwest Territories of Canada, releasing a crystalline material never before seen on Earth: quartz. This mineral had a disturbing and revolutionary property. It could transmit information through light beams and had a profound biological effect on living organisms, altering their cellular structures and forcing biological fusion. This discovery did not go unnoticed by the Cerberus Mining Corporation, which established a secret facility in the area to research and exploit the resource for scientific and commercial purposes. What started as a simple mining operation soon turned into a biological experimentation lab. Cerberus scientists, led by researcher Holbrook, discovered that quartz had the ability to rewrite the DNA of living beings, allowing the fusion of multiple organisms into a single entity with a collective consciousness. The first tests were conducted on animals with terrifying results. Test subjects became grotesque aberrations with multiple limbs and functional organs from different species. But the corporation, blinded by ambition and the desire to militarize this technology, took the experiments to the next level, testing on humans. The research advanced rapidly, with the corporation focusing on integrating multiple humans into a single entity capable of accumulating their knowledge and experiences. However, the biological fusion proved to be unstable and extremely aggressive. Holbrook, obsessed with the potential of the project, pushed the tests to the extreme, resulting in the creation of the zygote, an abominable creature that assimilated any human it came into contact with, integrating their bodies and memories into one monstrous entity. When the experiment spiraled out of control, the creature absorbed 98 of the 100 workers in the facility, becoming a colossal being with 392 limbs and 98 pairs of eyes. Only 2 people managed to survive: Quinn and Barkley, the protagonists of the short film. The story follows Barkley and Quinn, the last survivors of the Cerberus mining facility, as they try to escape the creature. Barkley is a Canary-class miner, a worker designed for high-risk labor in extreme environments. In the world of Zygote, society is divided into Class 1 humans and artificial beings designed for dangerous jobs. Barkley has been programmed to believe she is a synthetic being with no real value, whose only purpose is to serve and die in the line of duty. One of Barkley's most striking lines reflects this imposed mindset: "I was born to die. Class 1 people are born naturally." Her character resembles Bishop, the android from Aliens portrayed by Lance Henriksen. She's noble, loyal, and learns quickly, but above all, she lives to serve her human master, in this case, Quinn. However, throughout the story, she discovers a devastating truth. She is not a machine, but a human being bought by the corporation when she was only 2 weeks old and programmed to believe otherwise. On the other hand, Quinn is a Class 1 security officer and a shrewd survivor. Unlike his superiors, he does not treat Barkley as an inferior being. In an act of humanity, he forces her to drink water and eat, ensuring she retains her physical strength. However, he himself has already been exposed to the light of the quartz and feels something inside him changing. In a desperate attempt to avoid the fate of his colleagues, he gouges out his own eyes to avoid seeing the alien light. I took out my eyes when I saw that light. In a final act of sacrifice, he cuts off a finger and gives it to Barkley so she can access the corporate vault, her only hope of escape. Although Quinn and Barkley drive the plot, the real star of the short film is the Zygote. Its grotesque and disorganized appearance is reminiscent of The Thing by John Carpenter, but with one key difference. It not only assimilates bodies, but it also acquires the memories and knowledge of its victims. The creature is a fusion of body horror and existential horror. Its structure is made up of multiple fused bodies, some of which still attempt to move independently. It possesses a collective intellect, meaning it can reason and learn as it assimilates more victims. Its design is a masterpiece of horror. Twisted limbs, faces trapped in its flesh with expressions of suffering, and a way of moving that is both chaotic and coordinated. Its multiple eyes shine with disturbing intelligence, and its hands, feet, and fragments of twisted bodies seem to try to escape the amalgamation of flesh to which they now belong. This, combined with the icy and dark setting of the facility, makes it one of the most terrifying creatures in contemporary horror cinema. As they flee through the facility's halls, Quinn teaches Barkley how to shoot, telling her, "It'll back off when you shoot. No more than you can handle in the simulations." Eventually, Quinn is captured and assimilated by the Zygote, meaning the creature now has access to his knowledge and knows exactly where Barkley is. With the monster closing in, Barkley uses her ingenuity to cut off one of its arms and try its fingerprints on the corporate vault. After several attempts, she finally manages to get in. However, although she is now safe, reality hits hard. She has lost Quinn, her only friend and protector. Her whole life has been a lie. She is not a machine, but a human being exploited by the company. The creature is still out there, and it's only a matter of time before it finds a way in. The ending is open, leaving us uncertain as to whether she truly escaped or merely delayed the inevitable. And now that we've thoroughly covered its story, I want to talk to you about the physical appearance of the Zygote, what we know about its personality and behavior, and I'll explain its incredible abilities and how to survive and defeat this creature. The Zygote is one of the most grotesque and terrifying creatures in contemporary horror cinema. Its design, influenced by classics like John Carpenter's The Thing and the biological art of Zdzislaw Beksinski, represents body horror at its highest expression. Its aberrant humanoid form maintains a bipedal structure but is completely disfigured and appears to be in a constant state of mutation. With a colossal size exceeding 2.5 meters in height, its body is composed of the fused remains of 98 human workers, creating a bloated and asymmetrical appearance that never seems to stabilize. Its surface is an amalgamation of flesh in constant reorganization, with limbs protruding in chaotic positions, some still attempting to move independently, as if the absorbed bodies have residual consciousness. Its deformed and twisted hands, many fused together or clenched in a gesture of desperation, reinforce the disturbing idea that its victims remain trapped inside it. Instead of a single face, the Zygote is plagued by skulls and human faces emerging from its skin, some with expressions of agony, and others still moving their mouths in futile attempts to speak. With 98 pairs of eyes scattered chaotically across its body, each belonging to a different victim, its gaze is a whirlwind of terror and suffering. Its skin presents a sickly coloration with pale, bluish, and reddish tones, like necrotic flesh at various stages of decomposition. Its texture is rough and uneven, with exposed muscles, prominent veins, deep scars, and translucent areas where bones and organs can be seen. Some parts appear to have been sewn organically with flesh and tendons. Its movement is erratic and staggering due to the instability of its body, but when it attacks, it is surprisingly fast and brutal. Its gait is accompanied by gut-wrenching sounds, a chorus of overlapping human screams in a hellish echo, the cracking of bones breaking with each step, wet gurgling sounds and labored breaths, as well as weak moans and whispers coming from the mouths trapped in its body. Its design shares similarities with other creatures of body horror, such as The Thing, 1982, for its ability to assimilate bodies, the necromorph brute from Dead Space for its fused flesh structure, the abominations from Resident Evil for their extreme mutation, and the demons of Zdzislaw Beksinski for their nightmarish aesthetic. In conclusion, the Zygote is a masterpiece of visual horror, a manifestation of identity loss and despair. With its deformed body, multiple faces trapped in eternal suffering and lethal brutality, it stands as one of the most terrifying creations in modern science fiction and horror cinema. If it ever existed in reality, it would be one of the most terrifying beings ever conceived. The Zygote is not just a physical abomination. Its personality and behavior reflect an even deeper horror, the total loss of identity and the perpetual agony of its victims. Its mind is neither unique nor coherent, but a chaos of fused consciousnesses in constant torment. It has no clear purpose beyond its instinct for survival and expansion, driven by incessant suffering and primal rage. Its actions are erratic and unpredictable. At times, it seems confused, as if the fragments of the absorbed people are attempting to regain control, but at other times it acts with ruthless brutality. Its aggression manifests when it perceives movement or sounds around it, reacting immediately with lethal attacks. It shows no mercy or hesitation, attacking with overwhelming force and destroying everything in its path. However, it does not always kill immediately. In some cases, it seems to try to assimilate new victims, grabbing them with its multiple limbs while its flesh expands to envelop them. Its relationship with pain is complex. Although it suffers constantly, its screams of agony do not stop or weaken it. On the contrary, it seems driven by them. It writhes and shakes as if at war with itself, with the remnants of the minds trapped in its body struggling to free themselves. It does not demonstrate conventional intelligence, but it does have a highly efficient hunting instinct. It learns from its prey, recognizing movement patterns and adapting to intercept them with precision. It can move stealthily when necessary, lurking in the darkness before lunging with terrifying speed. Its communication is an echo of the voices of its victims. It does not speak in a traditional sense, but emits groans, screams, and fragmented words, as if the individuals trapped in its body are trying to communicate. At times, one can hear pleas or fragments of nonsensical sentences, making its encounter even more disturbing. It cannot be reasoned with, nor can its humanity be appealed to, because there is nothing left of it. Its existence is an endless cycle of pain, rage, and mutation, a monster without an identity of its own, doomed to a fate worse than death. The Zygote is not only a visual and psychological abomination, but it also possesses terrifying abilities that make it one of the deadliest creatures in body horror. Its capacity to destroy and assimilate everything around it makes it virtually unstoppable. Each of the 98 bodies that compose it contributes to its monstrous strength. It can break steel doors, destroy concrete walls, and throw a human being as if they were a ragdoll. Its blows are powerful enough to shatter bones with a single impact. It does not feel pain in the conventional sense. Although it suffers constant agony, this does not weaken it. Instead, it drives it further. It can be shot, deeply cut, and even hit by explosions without stopping. Its body is so dense that most physical attacks only manage to slow it down momentarily. Its flesh is in constant mutation, allowing it to regenerate quickly from severe wounds. If it loses a limb, new arms can grow from its fused flesh. Even if it is torn to pieces, the fragments can continue to move, as if each part still had a life of its own. The zygote can absorb its victims and fuse them with its body, adding their limbs, faces, and eyes to its monstrous form. This process is extremely painful for the victim, who remains conscious during the absorption. Some fragments of their personality may remain trapped within the zygote, contributing to its mental torment. Despite its colossal size and clumsy appearance, it can move at great speed when attacking. It can cover large distances in seconds, making it even more dangerous. Its mutant structure allows it to move in unpredictable ways, using multiple limbs to propel itself or climb surfaces. It has 98 pairs of eyes scattered across its body, allowing it to see in all directions simultaneously. It cannot be easily surprised, as it can detect movement in a 360-degree angle. Its eyes also seem to be sensitive to light and heat, allowing it to track its prey even in darkness. The zygote has no fixed shape. Its body continues to evolve and adapt to its environment. It can develop new limbs, strengthen its skin to resist damage, or even reconfigure its structure to pass through tight spaces. Its flesh seems to have a will of its own, reorganizing itself as needed. Its multiple mouths can emit deafening screams that disorient its prey. Some of these sounds appear to be imitations of human voices, which could be used to lure unsuspecting victims. It can also emit deep growls and guttural vibrations that create a visceral sense of terror in those who hear them. It is not affected by extreme temperatures or hostile environments. It can move on frozen terrain, walk through flames without reacting, and withstand chemical attacks without visible effects. Although it does not have a coherent mind, it seems to possess an infallible hunting instinct. It can detect fear in its prey and follow them for long periods. It does not easily forget its targets, and if it is injured or frustrated, it can become even more aggressive and persistent. The zygote cannot be killed by traditional means. Its regeneration and biological structure make eliminating it nearly impossible without extreme methods. Dismembering it only creates more moving parts, and burning it appears to have no permanent effect. The only way to stop it might be to completely destroy every fragment of its body. The zygote is a force of nature in its most grotesque state, a creature whose mere presence means condemnation for any human who crosses its path. If you come face to face with the zygote, let me tell you something, you're in trouble. This thing is not just a mountain of twisted flesh with 98 fused bodies. It's practically indestructible, brutally strong, and capable of absorbing its victims while they remain conscious. You can't beat it in a direct fight, so your only real option is to escape or avoid it entirely. Here, I'll explain how you could increase your chances of survival if you ever encounter this nightmare aberration. The zygote is not a monster you can get close to and live to tell the tale. Its mere presence is a death sentence. If you see it, immediately get away and do so silently. Don't try to study it. Don't waste time trying to figure out what it is, and above all, don't make noise that could alert it to your presence. Although the zygote is surprisingly fast for its size, it's still a deformed mass of twisted bodies, which means it can't maneuver well in tight spaces. Run in a straight line, avoid obstacles, and look for terrain where its size and shape are a disadvantage. If you manage to put enough distance between you and it, you might escape for now. The zygote doesn't seem to have a clear mind, but its hunting instinct is brutal. It can detect movement and fear in its prey, which means making noise will only turn you into its next target. Avoid screaming, crying, or making unnecessary sounds. If you need to move, Do so slowly and without drawing attention. Unlike other monsters that may lose interest if you hide, the zygote does not give up. If it knows you're near, it will search until it finds you. It is capable of tearing through walls and smashing steel doors as if they were made of cardboard. The only way to survive is to put as much distance as possible between you and the creature. If the zygote manages to grab you, the game is over. Its assimilation ability means you'll be slowly absorbed while staying conscious, enduring indescribable pain. Don't even think about attacking it up close, as every part of its body is a living weapon. The zygote has the terrifying ability to mimic human voices. It could call you by name, imitate a loved one, or scream for help. Do not fall for the trap. If you hear anything suspicious in an area where there shouldn't be anyone, do not investigate, do not respond, just keep running. Although the zygote is resistant to extreme temperatures and physical attacks, you still need to think strategically. If you can trap it in a confined space, block its path, or trick it into a trap, you might buy time to escape. Think elevators, metal gates, areas with constant fire, or unstable structures you can collapse on it. If, by some miracle, you find a way to dismember it, remember that every part remains alive and can continue attacking. The only way to completely eliminate it would be to destroy every fragment, which is practically impossible without military-level weapons or sustained fire for hours. Never approach it. If you see it, get out of there immediately. Run without stopping. There are no safe hiding spots. Make no noise. Its hunting instinct is relentless. Don't touch it. If it grabs you, you're finished. Don't trust the voices. If you hear something strange, ignore it. Use the environment. Barricades, fire, and structures can give you time. If you destroy it, destroy everything. Every part remains alive. The zygote is not a creature you can face head-on, and the only realistic survival strategy is to avoid it at all costs. If it finds you, run non-stop, and use every advantage possible to put distance between you and the creature, because if it catches you, there will be no second chance. And that's all we know so far about the entity known as the zygote. In fact, today was the first time I learned that this creature or its short film even existed, and I knew right away that I had to make a video about this being. But let me know your opinion in the comments. Did you already know about the zygote? Do you think a creature so monstrous, abominable, and gargantuan could really exist? And finally, if you encountered this creature, what would you do? Share your answers to these questions and your general opinion about the zygote. As always, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. If you liked it, share it to support the channel, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of my new videos.